Welcome to Survivors. My name is James and I'm an active truck driver over the road. In this video discussion, I wanted to give a little bit of my background history and how I went from about 30,000 to now about 100,000 in truck driving. And if you're trying to break into the industry and you're new to truck driving, I'm going to share some tips of what to look out for. And I'm also going to discuss with you what I had to go through in order to reach about 100K in annual salary truck driving over the road. If you're new to this channel is dedicated to truck drivers over the road out there grinding and doing the hard work. It's a stressful environment. And also we like to talk about personal development and mental health for truck drivers because it's no easy career field to be in the trucking industry, and great respect to everyone out there doing it. So if this sounds interesting, again, I'm going to give a little bit of my history, how I broke into the trucking industry, and some of the things I had to go through in order to be able to reach the income that I wanted and also to no longer struggle financially. About the year 2018 or 2019, I was doing security for a refinery in South Texas. And the reason that I chose to go into security because of my military background in the Army and Air Force, this allowed me to get a security job a little bit easier because of some of my experience. But when I started to do security, I noticed right away that I was not making the income that I wanted. And the job started to become really mundane. Imagine just sitting and looking and patrolling for hours and hours and hours. Things can get really bored, and I know that in career fields like law enforcement, they say if it's boring, it's a good day. Of course, you know, that is right within its own career field, but of course I was looking for something different. We all remember when the pandemic hit in 2020. I was laid off because of those circumstances, and many other people in those circumstances. You remember in 2020 when people started to lose their jobs, businesses started to shut down, and you know the story how this impacted the economy. So I thought, well, what can I do to get back into the market, get back to the career field? And I thought about trucking, and I was discussing this with my girlfriend, and I was saying, you know, I really wanted to truck drive for quite some time, but you know, that fear of driving these big trucks and these big machines really instilled into me self-doubt and a lack of confidence. And really what I learned later, it was just the unknown can create these emotions and these feelings. And I said, there's no way I could be a truck driver or ever try to maneuver such a piece of equipment. And I see these truck drivers out on the road just do it so easily. So the self-doubt certainly creeped in. In 2020, I had an awakening and I started to say, well, I want to provide better for myself, for my relationship, my girlfriend, and also for my kiddos, and to just be a better provider. And these were my motivations to do better financially and to have the financial security that I desired, because in security, I was not making very much. And then I remember at the time, health benefits were through the roof and there was no way I could afford health care. And the case started to build against me. And so fortunately, I finally made the decision to go into truck driving in 2020. I wanted to stop struggling financially and living paycheck to paycheck. And I thought, well, I think I could enjoy truck driving because of the travel, the sightseeing, and all this came true. But what I had to do first was get the financial resources that I needed to break into truck driving. Fortunately, in 2020, in the state of Texas, the workforce was giving assistance to those who wanted to dive into the trucking industry. And so I looked into Del Mar College there in South Texas. I started to apply for the program. It was much paperwork that I had to get through. And after submitting the application, after people reviewed and weeks of follow-up, and I even had to take a assessment test to assess, basic skills like reading, writing, and math. I had to do these things in order to gain the assistance that I needed, because at the time I could not afford about $5,000 to purchase the trucking program. And so with a lot of follow-up and persistence and patience, sooner or later, the workforce finally came back and said they would assist me in the program, and I was just really excited about that. And now I was nervous because now I was going to go train to be a truck driver. But before we continue, ask yourself, what is the reason you want to break into the trucking industry? What are the reasons that are keeping you from breaking into the trucking industry? Is it because you cannot afford it? Is it because of self-doubt or a lack of confidence? These may be things hindering you from breaking into the industry. I want to encourage you with my brief background history that it is possible. If you make a plan, if you have confidence and persistence, you will break into the industry if this is your case. But if you are already in trucking, great respect. I hope that everything is moving forward for you. So after I completed the training, about 8 weeks or so, it actually took longer because of the pandemic year. Things were being delayed, and the process took a little bit longer than usual, but I got it done in October of 2020. And now I started to try to find my first trucking job. And one of the first trucking jobs that I applied for was CFI out of Joplin, Missouri. You might be familiar with them. And the reason that I chose them, because I heard that there were good things about the training process. So I did go through the training process, one of my first jobs. I went out with the trainer a few weeks, and I got the experience that I needed. I realized I wanted to keep bumping up my rate per mile. And so I went on to other jobs like Legend. And you may have seen one of my older videos where my experience with Legend. I also worked for Creek Carrier, and these companies were just pushing me along to get through the process of what I had to go through in order to reach a higher annual salary. I know in my experience with Legend, unfortunately, I had too many breakdowns every week. I was losing miles. I did not have a good dispatcher. And there was just a lot of things there missing for me to try to accomplish a $100,000 kind of salary. And so I was only there a few months, and that was an experience that I had. I went on to try to experience Pride Transport, and I have another video that you can see in my review with working with Pride team driving, not solo driving. And you will be able to find out there that I just wasn't getting the miles that I desired in team driving. We were doing more solo work, my partner and I, in team driving, and we did try it for at least a year, and we saw the patterns that we were just not making the kind of money that team drivers should be making. And there are other companies that I can share where it just was not a good fit. I wasn't getting the miles. The dispatcher was not properly dispatching. Management was poorly managing. And all these things can add up in deducting miles and pay from you in a company that is not being mindful and persistent and making sure that they are taking care of the truck drivers, giving them the mileage that they want, making sure that their equipment is taken care of. And all these things matter, because at the end of the week, if these things aren't in place for a good trucking company, the truck driver is just going to suffer. They're going to become unhappy. Morale is going to dwindle, and turnaround is going to go through the roof, because these kind of companies cannot keep truck drivers when they do not make it a point to take care of them. And it just ended up being the same scenario And unfortunately, I was not happy in many of those experiences. But finally, I'm at a trucking company where I'm teaming, making the money that I desire, getting the miles very consistently. Equipment is very reliable. And so I'm very grateful for the company that I'm with now. With my partner, Team Driving, they take care of us. They are respectful. They are recognizing drivers often. They respect you as a person, not just as a driver. And I can say many more positive things at the trucking company that I'm at now. But I wanted to emphasize, to reach about 100K in annual salary, I had to go through these experiences with different companies. And sometimes I realize that that can hurt the resume where there are different jobs. But when I see a pattern, 6 months to a year, and then I have voiced my concerns and my opinions about not getting the mileage or the pay that I'm desiring, then I have to go to a better company that is a better fit for my personal financial goals. And maybe you can resonate with this, maybe you relate to this, but I do understand the other side of things where we are sometimes impatient and we get frustrated with our dispatch manager, or we get frustrated with the constant breakdowns, or we're not being compensated detention or breakdown pay where it is much needed and necessary to be paying those things to the truck driver. I do understand all of those frustrations. What I am saying is I had to experience this in order to, it took about 3 or 4 years in order to reach the income that I desired. If you're out there suffering with a company that is not taking care of you, not getting the miles or the pay that you like, I just want to encourage you to hang in there, stay patient, keep looking for that company that is going to be a good fit for you, because not all companies are equal, of course, and we learn this through trial and error. Respect to those truck drivers that are independent or have been with a company for 10, 15, 20 years. You've gone through the up and downs, you've gone through the good times and the bad times with that company, and that's admirable. And so get great respect to you for being consistent in the industry. That is not an easy thing to accomplish, I'm sure. Now that you know a little bit of my background, where I started making only about 30K, now to a much higher income, and some of the things that are necessary to go through to reach that, I want to share 2 favorite things that I love about trucking. Number 1 is that I do not have someone down my neck every single day micromanaging. This depends on the company, I know, and it depends on the people in the company. And like we have discussed, finding a good fit is a hard thing to do. It's a lot of trial and error. But one of my favorite things is I do not have to worry about a supervisor constantly micromanaging me, saying that I have to do this, that, or the other, and just constantly being there down my neck and just looking over. That is not the kind of environment that I would like to be in. And I know what those environments feel like, especially being in the Army, where you had drill sergeants and your superiors constantly, being over you. I know in every career field, when you reach a level of credibility and confidence, that kind of diminishes. But what I am talking about in the trucking industry is that for the most part, you do not have someone there always telling you what to do, and that is a great feeling of freedom being out on the road. Now, my question is, can you relate to one of these favorite things about trucking? No one wants to be told what to do all the time. And that is not a good feeling. It feels like your company has no trust in you. If you're a good person or a good truck driver, you're going to do the right thing and make sure the load is on time, and you're going to drive safe, and not cut corners and all these things that can cause an accident or cause others to be in harm's way. Hopefully you are a good truck driver in avoiding those things, but hopefully you can relate with one of my favorite reasons why I love trucking. Before I get into the second one, if you're finding value in this content and you are connecting with some of my background and this story, like the video and share this message with someone that may be trying to break into the industry, or even someone that is already a professional, consistent, experienced truck driver. And this way, we can encourage each other out here as truck drivers. The second thing that I like most about truck driving, not only the pay, that could be a third, but the second thing, one of my most favorites, is the environment of the open road and having time to think and collect your thoughts. This could be used in a positive way, and sometimes this can get the best of us in a negative way when we are overthinking and over worrying and letting our problems enter into us and overtake us. I'm not talking about this negative aspect. I'm talking about the positive aspect that truck driving is such a meditative environment. It is like going out into nature, but of course you are driving and having to use your focus and attention on the road. But when you're on those open roads, looking at those beautiful views and sunsets and sunrises and mountains and green trees, all this is refreshing to the spirit, to the mind, and the body. And this is one of my secret favorite things about truck driving. You can't get this in the office unless, of course, you're traveling and your job requires it and you do have that opportunity to sightsee. But many truck drivers enjoy being able to explore and see different things out on the road. So not having a boss over you all the time and having a meditative environment for the mind, it refreshes you, is two of my most favorite things in truck driving. What are some of your favorite things? Put them in the comments. I do read the comments. I take the time to look at them. I respond to them, most of them the best that I can. Let me know your thoughts about this. I appreciate you making it this far in the video and listening to a brief background and how I went from a certain amount of income to the income that I was desiring to make. Allow me to share a little bit of personal development tips if you're trying to get into the trucking industry, or if you are already a truck driver. And some of the tips that I have for you is, if you're trying to break in the industry, learn how to deal with limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs is what we had discussed earlier, is doubting your ability, doubting your strengths. And in all of us, we have particular strengths and weaknesses, of course, but find those strengths that you are good at. Maybe you have the tolerance to drive long hours. Maybe you have some mechanical skills that can be great in the trucking industry. Think about your strengths and how that they can transfer or apply to the trucking industry, and know that you have probably already what it takes just to get started and break into the industry. If you're a current truck driver and you are going through some hard times trying to find that position or that company you desire, try to just enjoy the journey and make sure that you stay positive in your mindset, because the moment that we start to complain too much about the situation, the moment we start to just constantly blame other things, this is going to keep our spirit down and not set the foundation that we need to get out of that situation. We have a choice. We have resources at our fingertips, the internet. We have other truck drivers as resources that can tell us about companies that they've worked for. And I'm sure many truck drivers are willing to share their stories or their experiences that were not so good, because that's some of the first things that we do share are the negative things that we experienced. And so everything is there in front of us to improve our situation. It is up to us to grab those things and to implement them and apply them to our current situation. So these are some tips, personal development tips that I have for you, for us as truck drivers to stay balanced out here, because I know this is a stressful environment, and I know that some of us are away from our families, we are away from friends, and sometimes even missing holidays, birthdays, and other important events. So stay focused. Make sure to not only take care of the body and eating right, but take care of this too, the mental health, because trucking does take a lot of mental capacity. And again, I respect everybody that is out there truck driving. If you like trucking content like this, personal development discussions, like this video, share this message with someone, and make sure to subscribe to Surviving Ears.